Maya Johnson stood at the edge of the stage, taking one final deep breath. She had practiced her speech countless times in her small apartment on the south side of Chicago. Now, she was about to present her life's work to some of the most powerful people in the world. Our next speaker is Maya Johnson, environmental engineer and founder of Green Urban Solutions, the announcer said. Maya walked onto the stage, her chin held high. The spotlights felt hot on her dark skin. She wore her natural hair in a neat bun and had chosen a bright yellow blazer over a simple black dress. Her mother had always told her to dress so people would remember her, and today, Maya wanted to be unforgettable. "Good morning," she began, her voice strong despite her racing heart. "I come from a neighborhood where clean water isn't guaranteed and green spaces are rare, but I believe every community deserves better." As she spoke about her project to bring sustainable water and energy systems to poor urban areas, Maya noticed a tall white man in the third row. Unlike the others who kept checking their phones, he watched her with complete attention. His expensive suit and the way others kept glancing at him told Maya he was someone important. 20 minutes later, Maya finished to loud applause. As people gathered around her with questions, she spotted the man from the third row standing at the edge of the crowd, waiting patiently. When the others finally left, he approached with a direct gaze and extended hand. "Ms. Johnson, I'm Alexander Reed. Your presentation was the most interesting thing I've heard all week." Maya recognized his name immediately. Alexander Reed was the founder of Tech Future, worth billions. His face had been on the cover of business magazines dozens of times. "Thank you, Mr. Reed," she said, shaking his hand firmly. "Please call me Alex," he said with a smile that seemed genuine. "Would you join me for dinner tonight? I'd like to discuss your project further." Maya hesitated. She had planned to call her sister and then review her notes for tomorrow's panel. Plus, men like Alexander Reed didn't usually want to just discuss projects with women like her. "This is strictly business," he added, as if reading her thoughts. "Your work could change lives, and I'd like to know more." "I appreciate the interest, Mr. Reed, but why does someone like you care about water systems in poor neighborhoods?" Maya asked directly. Instead of being offended, he seemed to appreciate her honesty. "Because I've built a fortune creating things people want, but I've done very little to address what people actually need," he answered. "And that's a problem I'd like to fix." Maya studied his face, looking for signs of deception. His blue eyes met hers without wavering. "Dinner is just dinner," he said. "You can tell me about your work. I'll tell you about resources I might be able to offer, and then you can decide if I'm worth talking to again." Maya thought about her project, the years of work, the funding rejections, the communities waiting for solutions. She thought about her grandmother who had always told her, "Closed mouths don't get fed." "Okay," she finally said. "One dinner, Mr. Reed. But I picked the restaurant." He smiled, looking slightly surprised. "Deal." As Maya walked away to gather her materials, she wondered if she had made a wise choice or a terrible mistake. She had spent her career fighting for her community's needs in rooms where people like her weren't welcome. Now, one of the richest men in the world wanted to hear more. She didn't know what would happen next, but Maya knew one thing for sure. She would not let this opportunity pass without seeing where it might lead. Maya sat across from Alexander Reed at Mama Pearl's, a small soul food restaurant in her neighborhood. She had chosen this place on purpose. If he really wanted to understand her work, he needed to see the community it would help. "Most people in your position would have suggested some fancy downtown restaurant," Alexander said, looking around at the simple decor and photos of local families on the walls. "I'm not most people, Mr. Reed," Maya replied, spreading her napkin on her lap. "And this place has the best cornbread in Chicago." Alexander smiled as the owner, an older black woman, brought over 2 plates of food without them ordering. "The usual for you, Maya, and I gave your friend our special," the woman said with a wink. "Thank you, Ms. Pearl. This is Mr. Reed. He's interested in my water project." Ms. Pearl looked Alexander up and down. "Well, it's about time someone with money noticed what this girl is doing. She's going to change this neighborhood." After Ms. Pearl left, they ate in silence for a moment. Maya watched Alexander enjoy the food, seeming genuinely pleased by the flavors. "So," Maya finally said, "why did you really ask me to dinner?" Alexander put down his fork. Your project solves three problems at once: clean water access, energy costs, and local jobs. I've seen hundreds of pitches this year, but yours is the only one that actually helps regular people. And what do you get out of it? Maya asked directly. A worthwhile investment, he answered. And maybe a chance to do something meaningful for once. Maya raised an eyebrow. I find it hard to believe a billionaire tech CEO cares that much about water systems in poor neighborhoods. Instead of getting defensive, Alexander looked down at his plate. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have. But success isn't what I thought it would be. I build things people want, not what they need. There's a difference. He pulled out his phone and showed her photos of similar projects in other countries. I funded these, but they're all overseas. We have the same problems here, but nobody's solving them properly. Maya was surprised by his knowledge. He had clearly done his research. Here's my offer, Alexander said. I'll fully fund your project for Chicago. Everything you outlined in your presentation, plus salaries for local workers you'll train. No strings attached. Maya nearly choked on her water. No strings attached. There are always strings. The only condition is that if it works, we scale it to other cities together. He leaned forward. You keep control. Your vision, your leadership. I provide the money and connections. Maya's mind raced. With that kind of funding, she could finish in months instead of years. Communities could have clean water and lower bills by next summer, but deals this good usually had hidden costs. Why me, she asked. There are bigger engineering firms you could work with. Because they don't care like you do, he said simply. They see problems. You see solutions. Maya pushed her plate away, thinking hard. This could be the opportunity of a lifetime or a massive mistake. I need time to think about it, she said finally. Alexander nodded. Take all the time you need. He placed his business card on the table. But know this, I've never been more serious about an offer. Later that night, Maya sat on her small balcony looking at the city lights. In one hand, she held Alexander's card. In the other, a list of all the people who would benefit from her project. She knew saying yes would change everything. The question was whether it would be for better or worse. 3 days after their dinner, Maya called Alexander. Her voice was firm and clear when she said, "Yes, let's do this." 2 weeks later, she found herself walking through the gleaming glass doors of Tech Future's headquarters. The security guard gave her a suspicious look until she mentioned Alexander's name. Even then, the man's eyes lingered on her too long. "Ms. Johnson, welcome." Alexander greeted her in the lobby, dressed in a casual sweater and jeans while everyone else wore suits. Ready to meet the team? Maya adjusted her blazer and nodded. She had practiced this moment in her mirror all morning. The meeting room was filled with executives, all white men except for one Asian woman. As Maya presented her project plans, she noticed some of them exchanging looks. "So," said one man with gray hair, "you want us to invest millions in neighborhoods with high crime rates and low property values." "I want to invest in communities with hardworking people who deserve clean water and affordable energy," Maya corrected him, keeping her voice steady. "And yes, the return on investment is both financial and social." "James," Alexander cut in, "Maya's project has better projected returns than half our current portfolio. And that's just counting the money, not the lives improved." Maya noticed how the room's energy shifted when Alexander spoke. She continued her presentation, but kept thinking about how different their worlds were. After the meeting, Alexander walked Maya to her car. "Sorry about James," he said. "He's from the old school." "I've met plenty of James before," Maya replied. "At least this time I had someone on my side." That weekend, Maya met her sister Tasha for coffee. "Curl, you're working with Alexander Reed now?" Tasha asked, eyes wide. "Your face was on business websites all week." Maya sighed. "It's a good opportunity, Tash." "I'm not saying it isn't," her sister replied. "But be careful. Rich white men like him usually want something in return." "He seems different," Maya said. "They all seem different at first," Tasha warned. "Just remember who you are and where you come from." The next month flew by as Maya assembled her team, hired local workers, and secured permits. Alexander kept his word about funding but stayed in the background. Then came the day of their first community meeting. Maya had warned Alexander to dress casually, but she still smiled when he arrived in a plain button-down shirt and khaki pants. "Too much?" he asked, noticing her look. "No, you'll blend right in," she replied, although they both knew that wasn't possible. The community center was packed with neighborhood residents, many skeptical about the project. Maya introduced herself and explained how the new water systems would work. "Who's the white man?" an elderly woman called out, pointing at Alexander. Maya took a breath. "This is Alexander Reed. He's providing funding for our project." Alexander stepped forward awkwardly. "I'm just here to support Ms. Johnson's vision. This is her project, led by her team, employing people from this community." A young man stood up. "Why should we trust either of you? People come here making promises all the time." Maya stepped closer to the crowd. "Because I grew up 6 blocks from here. Because my grandmother still lives on Elmwood Street. Because when I say I'll do something, I do it." The room grew quiet. "I don't expect trust right away," Maya continued. "But give us 3 months. You'll see pipes being laid, systems being built, and your neighbors getting paychecks." As the meeting continued, Alexander watched Maya handle every question with patience and honesty. He realized he had much to learn from her, not just about community projects, but about connecting with people. By the end of the night, the crowd's mood had shifted from suspicion to cautious hope. As they walked back to their cars, Alexander said quietly, "They believe in you." Maya nodded. "That's because I believe in them." 6 months into the project, Maya stood looking at the construction site that had once been an empty lot. Workers in hard hats moved purposefully, installing pipes and solar panels. More than half of them were from the neighborhood, trained through the program she had designed. "We're ahead of schedule," she told Alexander as he joined her. "The first 50 homes will have the new water system next week." Alexander nodded, genuinely impressed. "You've accomplished more in 6 months than most of my tech projects do in 2 years." Maya smiled, allowing herself a moment of pride. Having proper funding helps. They walked through the site together, Maya greeting each worker by name. Alexander noticed how different she was here compared to the boardroom meetings. Here, she was completely in her element. Ms. Johnson called Darius, a young man who had been one of their first hires. "We finished the east section testing. All systems green." "Great work," Maya replied. "Ready to lead the team on Monroe Street next week." Darius stood straighter. "Yes, ma'am." As they continued their tour, Alexander said, "You're good at this, giving people responsibility, helping them grow." "That's the difference between our approaches," Maya replied. "You see this as an infrastructure project. I see it as a people project." Later that day, they sat in Maya's small office reviewing plans when her phone rang. Her face grew serious as she listened. "What happened?" Alexander asked after she hung up. "The city denied our permit for the West Side expansion," Maya said, her voice tight with frustration. "They're saying there are technical concerns with our plans." "That's nonsense," Alexander replied. "Our systems exceed all safety requirements." Maya sighed. "This isn't about safety. Councilman Williams has been fighting this project from the start. His biggest donors are utility companies who don't want people having lower water bills." Alexander reached for his phone. "I know the mayor. One call and—" "No," Maya cut him off. "That's not how we do this." "But I could solve this in 5 minutes," he insisted. "And then what happens next time we face opposition?" Maya asked. "We can't rely on your connections to bypass every obstacle." "Then what do you suggest?" Alexander asked, trying to hide his frustration. "We go to the community," Maya said. "Tomorrow's the neighborhood block party. We show people our plans, get them to sign a petition. When enough voters demand something, politicians listen." Alexander looked skeptical. "That will take weeks." "Yes," Maya agreed. "But when we win, it will be because the people who live here fought for it. That matters." The next day, Alexander arrived at the block party feeling out of place. The street was filled with music, food stands, and children playing. Maya had set up a booth with simple diagrams of their water system and maps showing which areas would benefit. Alexander watched as Maya explained the project to residents, her face animated and patient even when answering the same questions repeatedly. When she mentioned the permit issue, People immediately began signing the petition. An older man approached Alexander. "You're the money man, right?" "I suppose I am," Alexander replied. "I was against this project at first," the man admitted. "Thought it was just another empty promise. But Maya's different. She listens to us." Alexander nodded. "Yes, she does." "You picked the right person to work with," the man said before walking away. As the day went on, Alexander found himself helping at the booth, explaining the technical aspects while Maya gathered signatures. By evening, they had over 500 names. "This is how change happens," Maya told him as they packed up. "Not in boardrooms, but in communities." Looking at the stacks of signed petitions, Alexander realized he was learning a different kind of business, one that measured success not in profits, but in people helped. Maya stepped out of her car and was immediately blinded by camera flashes. The success of their project had caught the media's attention, and now reporters crowded the sidewalk outside their newest work site. "Ms. Johnson, is it true you're dating Alexander Reed?" a reporter shouted. "How did you get a billionaire to fund your project?" called another. Maya took a deep breath and walked forward. "I'm here to discuss our water and energy systems, not my personal life. And Mr. Reed funded this project because it makes both business and moral sense." She continued walking, answering only questions about the technology and community impact, but the questions about Alexander kept coming. Later that day, Maya scrolled through news articles on her phone. One headline read, "Billionaire's Charity Case, Reed's latest project." Another called her the beauty behind the billionaire's new interest. Almost none focused on the actual work they were doing. Her phone rang. It was Alexander. "Have you seen the news?" he asked. "Unfortunately," Maya replied. "I'm sorry," he said. "This isn't what either of us wanted." Maya sighed. "It's not your fault, but this is exactly why people like me hesitate to work with people like you. Everything gets twisted." The next morning, Maya was scheduled for a TV interview about the project. She arrived at the studio wearing a simple dress and her grandmother's necklace for strength. The interview started well, with Maya explaining how their systems worked and the jobs they created. Then the interviewer changed direction. "Some critics say you're just the face of this project, that Mr. Reed is really pulling the strings. How you respond to that?" Maya sat up straighter. "I designed these systems during my PhD research. I've spent years developing them. Mr. Reed recognized their value and provided funding. This is my project, led by my team." "And what about rumors of a romantic relationship between you two?" Maya's eyes narrowed. "Would you ask a white male engineer that question? I'm a professional with 2 engineering degrees discussing a groundbreaking environmental project. Let's focus on that." The interviewer looked surprised but moved on. After the interview, Maya found Alexander waiting outside the studio. "You saw that?" she asked. He nodded. "You handled it perfectly." "I shouldn't have to handle it at all," Maya said as they walked to the car. "No one questions your expertise or asks about your personal life when you discuss business." "You're right," Alexander admitted. "I've never had to prove I belong in rooms where I'm now watched and questioned." 2 days later, they attended a fundraising gala for environmental projects. Maya wore a beautiful emerald dress, determined to represent herself and her community with pride. As they entered, people stared and whispered. When they reached their table, a wealthy older woman looked Maya up and down. "So you're the girl working with Alexander," the woman said. "What an opportunity for someone like you." Before Maya could respond, Alexander stepped forward. "Actually, I'm the one with the opportunity. Ms. Johnson could have partnered with anyone. I'm fortunate she chose to work with me." The woman looked startled, then moved away. Later, as they stood near the bar, Maya said, "You didn't need to defend me." "I wasn't defending you," Alexander replied. "I was stating facts. But I'm sorry for how people are treating you. I didn't fully understand what you'd face by associating with me." Maya looked around the room filled with wealthy, powerful people. "This is just one night for you. This is my whole career for me." Alexander was quiet for a moment. "What can I do?" "Nothing," Maya said. "This is something I have to navigate myself, but you can keep seeing it, acknowledging it, and not pretending it doesn't exist." For the first time, Alexander truly understood. Maya's courage wasn't just in her work, but in moving through a world that constantly questioned her right to be there. 1 year after their partnership began, Maya sat on her grandmother's porch, watching children play with water from a new community fountain their project had built. The old woman rocked gently beside her, a proud smile on her face. "Your grandfather would have loved to see this," her grandmother said. "He always said you would do great things." Maya squeezed her grandmother's hand. "I couldn't have done it without the funding. Money is just a tool," her grandmother replied wisely. "It's what you do with it that matters." They sat in comfortable silence until a sleek car pulled up. Alexander stepped out, looking uncertain until Maya waved him over. "Grandma, this is Alexander Reed," Maya said as he climbed the porch steps. The old woman studied him carefully. "So you're the billionaire who finally recognized my granddaughter's brilliance." Alexander smiled. "I think she recognized something in me too, someone who needed direction." "Sit down, young man," Maya's grandmother pointed to a chair. "I want to hear about your family." Maya watched with surprise as Alexander spoke more openly with her grandmother than she had ever heard before. He talked about growing up wealthy but lonely, about parents who valued success over happiness, about feeling empty despite having everything. "Sounds like you had plenty of money, but not much love," the old woman said bluntly. Alexander nodded. "That's exactly right." "Well, we had the opposite around here," she replied. "Not much money, but plenty of love and purpose." Later, as Maya walked Alexander to his car, he seemed different. "Your grandmother is remarkable," he said. "She asked me questions no one has ever asked me before." "Like what?" Maya asked. "What I'm proud of that has nothing to do with money," he answered. "I couldn't think of anything at first." The next day, they met at the project headquarters to review their progress. 300 homes now had clean, affordable water. Power bills had been cut in half. 20 local residents had permanent jobs maintaining the systems. "We've proven the model works," Maya said, showing Alexander the data. "It's time to consider expanding to other neighborhoods." Alexander nodded. "I've been thinking about that." He slid a folder across the table. "These are 5 cities with similar needs. We could start in any of them." Maya opened the folder, surprised by how thorough his research was. "You've been busy." "I've learned a lot from you this year," he admitted. "About looking beyond profit, about community impact, about actually listening to people's needs." Maya studied him. "And I've learned that my assumptions about wealthy people aren't always correct. Some of you actually want to help." "Some of us," Alexander corrected with a smile. "Most are exactly what you thought." That evening, they attended a community celebration. Local families gathered in the new park that had been created alongside their water project. Children played, music played, and tables were filled with home-cooked food. An older man approached them with tears in his eyes. "My grandson's asthma is better since you cleaned up our water." The doctors couldn't believe it. Another woman hugged Maya. "My water bill went from $200 to $50. I can finally afford my medicine again." As they walked through the celebration, Maya noticed Alexander stopping to talk with people, remembering their names, asking about their families. A year ago, he would have stood awkwardly at the edges. "You've changed," she observed. "So have you," he replied. "You walk into boardrooms now like you own the place." Maya laughed. "I've learned that confidence isn't just for billionaires." As the sun set, they stood side by side watching the community they had helped transform. "Thank you," Alexander said quietly. "For what?" Maya asked. "For saying yes," he answered, "when you had every reason to say no." Maya stared at the email on her screen, reading it for the 3rd time to make sure she understood correctly. The message was from Water Corp, one of the largest private water companies in the country. "They want to invest $20 million in our project," she told Alexander when he arrived at the office. "But they have conditions." Alexander sat down across from her. "What kind of conditions?" "They want us to focus on middle and upper income neighborhoods first," Maya said, her voice tight. "They say those areas will show better financial returns." "That's exactly opposite to our mission," Alexander replied, frowning. Maya nodded. "They also want to charge higher fees in existing locations. And they want their logo on everything." "What did you tell them?" "Nothing yet," Maya said. $20 million would help us expand to 3 more cities immediately. Alexander was quiet for a moment. What are you thinking? Maya stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see workers installing new pipes in a neighborhood that had suffered from poor water quality for decades. I grew up watching companies ignore neighborhoods like this, she said. I promised myself I would never do the same. Then we say no, Alexander replied simply. Maya turned to face him. It's not that easy. This is your money at risk. If we turn down this investment, our expansion plans will be delayed by years. It's not about the money anymore, Alexander said. It's about doing what's right. The next day, they met with Water Corp executives in Alexander's downtown office. The men in expensive suits smiled as they discussed market-based solutions and prioritizing profitable demographics. Thank you for your offer, Maya said when they finished. We cannot accept your conditions. Our mission is to serve communities with the greatest need first. The lead executive's smile disappeared. Ms. Johnson, be realistic. Those neighborhoods don't generate sufficient return on investment. Those neighborhoods are filled with human beings who deserve clean water, Maya replied firmly. Perhaps you don't understand the opportunity we're offering, another executive said, looking at Alexander instead of Maya. With our backing, you could triple your profits. I understand perfectly, Alexander said, standing up. But Ms. Johnson and I agree that profits aren't our primary goal. After the executives left, Maya sat down heavily. They'll try to block us. Water Corp has connections with city officials in every location we want to expand to. Then we'll fight them, Alexander said. I have some connections too. That evening, Maya called an emergency meeting with their team. She explained the situation honestly, not hiding the challenges ahead. Water Corp will make things difficult for us, she concluded. I want you all to know that before we move forward. Darius, now a project manager, stood up. Ms. Johnson, my sister's baby was getting sick from the water before your system was installed. Now he's healthy. That matters more than money. Others nodded in agreement. Later, as Maya and Alexander walked to their cars, he asked, Are you worried? Yes, she admitted. Water Corp could destroy everything we've built. Or, Alexander said, they could make us stronger. Sometimes opposition reveals who you really are. Maya looked at him curiously. A year ago, you would have taken that deal without blinking. A year ago, I measured success differently, he replied. You taught me that real impact isn't about numbers on a spreadsheet. And you taught me that having money doesn't automatically make someone selfish, Maya said with a small smile. They stood in silence for a moment, both understanding that they had reached a turning point. The path ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, Maya felt they were truly partners. Not just a billionaire and the woman who had said yes to him, but two people committed to the same vision. Ready for a fight? Alexander asked. Maya nodded. Always have been. 3 years had passed since Maya first said yes to Alexander's offer. Standing on the stage at a national environmental conference, she looked out at the audience filled with community leaders, engineers, and government officials. Today, we celebrate not just one success story, but 12, Maya said into the microphone. 12 communities across the country now have clean, affordable water and sustainable energy systems. Behind her, a screen showed before and after photos of neighborhoods transformed by their project. In the front row sat Alexander, watching with quiet pride. When we refused to compromise our mission, many said we would fail, Maya continued. Water Corp tried to block our permits. Politicians questioned our methods. Investors doubted our business model. She paused, remembering those difficult months after they turned down Water Corp's offer. The legal battles, the negative press, the sleepless nights. But we had something more powerful than money or political connections, Maya said. We had communities who stood with us, people who believed in our vision, and yes, we had one billionaire who was willing to use his resources for good. After her speech, Maya was surrounded by young engineers asking for advice. Among them was a group of black and brown women, their eyes shining with hope. Did you always know you could do this? One young woman asked. Maya shook her head. I knew the work was important, but I doubted whether someone like me would be allowed to lead it. I had to learn that my voice matters. Later, Maya and Alexander walked through the hotel garden, reflecting on their journey. Your foundation is ready to run without you, Alexander said. 6 project leaders trained and managing their own teams. Operations in 12 cities. What's next for you? Maya smiled. I'm starting a training program for engineers from underrepresented communities. And you? Ready to go back to tech innovations? Actually, Alexander replied, I'm restructuring my company, moving 50% of our resources into community infrastructure projects. It turns out helping real people is more satisfying than creating another app. They sat on a bench overlooking the city lights. In the distance, they could see one of their water towers standing tall against the night sky. I got a call from President Davis yesterday, Alexander said casually. She wants to create a national program based on our model. She asked if you would lead it. Maya's eyes widened. Me? Working with the White House? Alexander nodded. Who better? You've proven the model works. Now it could help millions. Maya was quiet for a moment, taking in this new possibility. 3 years ago, I was struggling to get a meeting with local officials. Now the president is calling. That's what happens when you refuse to give up, Alexander replied. You change what's possible. The next morning, Maya visited her grandmother before heading back to Chicago. They sat on the same porch where she had introduced Alexander 3 years earlier. I'm proud of you, child, her grandmother said, holding Maya's hand. Not just for what you built, but for how you built it. You never forgot who you are or where you come from. I had a lot of help, Maya said. Her grandmother smiled knowingly. That billionaire turned out to be a good partner after all. He did, Maya agreed, because I never let him forget what really matters. As Maya drove to the airport, she thought about the journey that began with one simple word: yes. Saying yes hadn't been about accepting help from a powerful man. It had been about claiming her own power and vision. Now, as she prepared to take on an even bigger challenge, Maya understood the true lesson of her partnership with Alexander. When two people from different worlds combine their strengths for the right reasons, they don't just solve problems, they transform what's possible. And that's what happens when a black woman says yes to a billionaire. Not the end of her story, but the beginning of a much bigger one.